Hey guys, hi everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Manmohan. Good morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible? Good morning, Manmohan. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, guys. Hi everyone. Good morning, Teach Peace. Good morning, Adarsh. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Perfect. I guess I am audible, right? So I can see people are joining. Good morning, Shipra. Good morning. Good morning, Adarsh. Good morning, everyone. So I can see people are joining. Good morning, Ashu Tech. Good morning. Good morning, Ankit. So let me put a message in the WhatsApp group and then we can start our session. I can see only 13 people here. That's not the expected number, but of course, people will be joining very soon. So let's wait 1 or 2 minutes. Hey, good morning, Food Picasso Cafe. I hope you will put your real name as well so that I can call you out with that name. Good morning, Sukhjot. Good morning, Shweta. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Basu. Hello. Hi, hi, hi. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So I can see only 24 students, sorry, 17 students here. Good morning, Pavani. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. So we will wait few minutes for rest of the people to join, and then we will start our session. Okay. Arka, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am doing very well. I hope all of you are doing very well as well. So let me start sharing my screen. Please let me know whether my screen is visible to all of you or not. Hey Faisal, hi. Good morning. So let us set up the environment in the meantime and then we can start with our session. Please put a message in the WhatsApp group and ask your friends to join quickly in order to start with this session. Visible. Perfect. 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 Good morning, Pradnya. Good morning. Good morning. Perfect. Okay. Visible. Perfect. So I guess we can start our session. It's already 9:02, but I think we can wait 1 or 2 minutes, right? So people are joining. I can see people are joining. So in our yesterday's class, the class that we actually took yesterday was one of the very important classes related to our JavaScript. We understood what actually we mean by JavaScript under the hood, right? In our yesterday's class, we had a very intense, very serious discussion around JavaScript, and I think yesterday's class was the first class when you might have felt that we are actually learning JavaScript, right? So that's what we are going to continue in today's class. Our main focus will be on some of the very important topics related to the discussion that we have already done in our previous class related to how JavaScript executes its code behind the scenes under the hood. And related to that, we actually already had a very good discussion around execution context, just what we mean by functional context, what we mean by global context, what we mean by memory part, what we mean by scope, what we mean by code execution, what we mean by synchronous single-threaded interpreted programming language. Okay. So we are going to continue that discussion today's class by understanding properly what functions are. So our today's agenda will be completely around the same context that we actually yesterday created, but I am also going to complete in today's class what functions are. In our one of the classes, if we try to revise, I actually told you that if you want to become a very good JavaScript developer, even if you want to become a very good web developer, you must have in JavaScript a very good hold on 2 3 topics, right? Number one was arrays, number two was functions, number three was objects, right? But mostly arrays and functions. So that's what we are going to do in today's class. We are going to make sure that we understand our JavaScript functions properly, why it is too much important inside our JavaScript. That's also going to be discussed in today's class, and a lot of other things we will discuss. But I cannot see a good number of people have joined, only 24. It's Sunday already. So everyone should be at home, and I should see at least 80, 90 number here. But unfortunately, only 24. So that's not how this is going to work. So we have to take care of that. If we want this sessions, if we want this batch to continue, I need a very good number, because there are 400 students in our WhatsApp group. That's the reason. If there would have been only 50 or 60 students in our WhatsApp group, in our batch, then this number would have justified itself, right? But if we have 400 students in our WhatsApp group, it's quite obvious at least 100 should be here, at least minimum. But it's very unfortunate that we can see 24 students only. Leave it. Let's come back and let's start our discussion. Okay. In our yesterday's class, we did a very good discussion around how JavaScript works behind the scenes. We will come back to that quickly in few seconds, maybe not, but in today's class, our main focus will be on understanding functions. Now, what is a function in JavaScript? I told you how you have discussed functions in your mathematics. It's exactly same. A block of code that receives input and then gives us output. And when you invoke it, it actually executes its code, similar to what we do in our mathematics that you might have done in your 10th and 11th. But why is functions called as mini heart, mini programs, mini heart of JavaScript? Because in other programming language, there's only one or two types of functions. Okay. But if we talk about our functions inside JavaScript, there are a lot of types. Number one type that we actually have is called function statement, which we have already discussed in our previous class. What do we mean by function statement? Function statement actually means that there is going to be a function keyword properly used, then there is going to be a function name, then there will be some parameter 1, parameter 2, so on and so forth, and then there will be some code it's going to execute, and then finally it's going to return. Whenever we create our function in this format, at that point of time we say it's a function statement, a normal function, how we actually use functions in every programming language. And I think we have already discussed this part in our previous class. But on the second hand, there's one very important, beautiful thing that we can actually have in JavaScript, which is JavaScript does not just allow you to define functions in this format. JavaScript also allows us to define functions and store them in variables. And those types of functions are called function expressions. Function expressions. What do we mean by function expression? Function expressions are that type of functions where you will simply define a variable, where let's suppose where function name, whatever you want to name this variable, is equals to, and then you will define a function keyword like this, maybe over a function name or not, it's completely up to you. And then this is how it's going to be. It will have its own statements, its own statements, its own statement, and then finally you can simply return. This is also a function over there. And this is one of the very beautiful parts, good morning, other related to functions in JavaScript. In JavaScript, our simple normal variables can be actually storing functions. And that is the most beautiful part about JavaScript related to functions. Leave everything aside. Let's see a very simple example of it, very basic example of it to understand it properly. So let me go here in the JavaScript function and let's try to define one function here with a variable name. Let's suppose var greet over there is equals to, and I'm simply going to define a function like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. And what it's going to do is it's simply going to say console.log good evening. So right now the variable that I actually have, it is right now storing a function. Since it's a variable, I can of course console it as well. So if I try to console my greet, let's try to understand what I see in the output. And in the meantime, let me try to comment this code because I don't want this code to be executed. So if I execute it, you can clearly see that this greet variable actually is nothing but a function that is pointing to greet, reference over there. So I can simply call this. So if it is a function, so how do we call our function? We simply can call our function by putting a parenthesis in front of it. So now if I simply call it, you can clearly see good evening. So it is exactly same how it worked in our previous case. Let me create the same function with function statement. So I will define a function name with double T over here like this, like this, like this. And what it is supposed to do, it's supposed to display good morning here. So this function prints good morning, this function prints good evening. And over here, I will also call the same function over here and put a parenthesis in front of it. And if I call it, you can clearly see both of them properly work in the output. So good morning, good evening. Now, this brings me to one of the very important topics inside our JavaScript, which we don't know as of now, but one of the very important interview questions as well. And please note it down. The question can be, what is the difference between function statement and function expression? Think about it. Think about it how JavaScript engine will understand this code. Think about that. One of the very important interview questions. Remember one point, note down all these 26 students. I can see you guys are very serious. That's why number is not decreasing. 26, 25, that's the number. So whenever I say it's an interview question, create a section in your notebook where you will write interview questions. Okay, and note these questions one by one. And then even you can share them with the rest of the people as well on the that group, serious wala group, right? We have another group, although we don't communicate in that, but there are those students who are very serious. So over there, share these resources. So write down the question that might be asked related to this particular discussion is, what is the difference between function statement, a function that you will define like this, or function declaration, function expression, sorry. What do we mean by expression? Simply there's an equal to, that's why it's called a function expression. So what is the difference between them? What's the difference? What do you think? I would say you already know the answer. If you ask me, you already know the answer. Trust me, you know. You will say, sir, how? You just have to understand how this code will be executed inside the execution context. Create the execution context of it and see what will happen. Do we have any thoughts here? Like, what is the difference? You will say, okay, sir, the difference is that's a normal function. This is a function stored in a variable. That is the visual representation, visual difference. But what is the exact difference between these two? Let's understand it properly with help of our diagram. So let's suppose over here we have our breakpoint, which means there's no code that has been executed yet. So at that point of time over there, we simply will have our global execution context, and that will have two parts called as memory and another part is code. Let's ignore code. Now tell me over there will be key value pairs of variables and functions, and over there inside this particular memory, what are those keys related to the program that we have in this program? What are the two keys that will be stored in memory? What are those two keys? Quickly tell me. What are those two keys according to you? Look at this program and tell me what are those two keys. Of course, you will say, so the first key is the function. Very good. So I will simply create first key as greet, like this. Sorry, double ET. Done. Second key value, say, will say variables are greet. So this is GREET. So where double T, do we have this? Very good. Now tell me what will be stored in front of this greet actually inside memory, and what will be stored in front of this variable greet over there. So what will be stored here, what will be stored in this function, and what's the difference between these two? All the people who have joined now, we are discussing function statement and function expression. What is the real difference between them? So we know that in front of variables, it does not matter what is stored in front of them, there will be undefined in front of them. Very good. And in front of functions, we have all of the function code. So even before executing a single line of code over there, we know function statement will store all of the function code, which means inside memory, it already has a picture of what function looks like if it is a function statement. But on the other hand, if it is a variable, it does not matter what we store in front of a variable in memory before executing a code. While it is taking a snapshot, it will store undefined. So if it stores undefined, if this is the execution context in memory space, tell me what will happen over here. So on this line of code, if I simply call greet over here, that is with double T, if I call it, what will be the output? That's what my question is. On line number 10, if I call this function, what will be the output over here? Which means I am trying to access this function invocation before declaring it. It's declared after 11 to 13, but I am actually calling it on line number 10. And of course, our JavaScript will go line by line. So it will execute the 10th line first. So in this case, what will be the output? What do you think? One of the very important things that we have to understand here. What will be the output in this case? Please make sure that you like this video and share it with your friends. Bring them in this live session, okay? Come on, guys. What will be the output of this line number 10? I require some answers quickly. Kavya says undefined. Very good. Anyone else? Manmohan says good morning. Very good. Anyone else? Very good. Good morning. Very good. Very good. Very good. It will give whole function. No, it's a function invocation. So whatever that function is supposed to do, it's going to give the output. Ashutek says undefined. Let's understand one thing. Guys, there's one misconception that you guys have. You guys think that when I actually invoke this, it does not know what this code is. That's not how it works. When you actually go here, you call it, it tries to find this particular key inside the memory. It does not matter whether this code is after that or not. It will try to look for this particular function invocation in the memory. If it is there, it will call it properly. If it is not there, it's not going to call it. Simple as that. So when we call on line number 10, when our breakpoint is here at this line of code, at that point of time, even before executing a single line of code, we already have our memory creation here. You can see. So when it will execute this line of code, do we have the function at that point of time in memory? Do we have the function at that point of time in memory? That's what I'm asking. Of course, yes. Yes, sir. In memory, we have the function. So in memory, if we have the function code, don't you think it already knows what greet actually is? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So when you say greet or console.log A, when you say console.log X, when you say X, you call it, it does not go for code. It goes into memory. It sees whether this identifier, this particular thing is in memory or not. That's how it works. That's how execution happens. So when we actually write greet on line number 10, it goes to the memory and it sees whether there is a key with the name of greet, G-R-E-E-T-T. And of course, there is. And what is stored in front of the greet? There's a whole function. So if there is a whole function, of course, it will give the output. So if I try to execute it, you can clearly see good morning, good morning, good evening. Am I clear? Related with memory, related with memory. And why does my brackets work here? Because it's a function that is stored in front of greet. But on the other hand, if I call my normal greet, it means it will try to find a function in the memory. Is there a key with help of a that has an identifier greet in the memory? Yes, sir, there is. Yes, sir, there is. But what is stored in front of it? What is stored in front of this when this is being executed? Sir, there is undefined. So it is not function. So since if it is not function, will this round bracket work here? Do you understand? I will explain again. But look at this. Look at this. We have greet, normal greet. The point is it in memory? Yes, sir, it is in memory. But what is stored in front of this greet? There is undefined. So when we put brackets in front of a greet, automatically JavaScript understands that in front of greet there is supposed to be a function. But is there a function? No. That is why this is going to throw an error. So if I try to execute this, you can clearly see it says greet is not a function because it is not. But on the other hand, this greet is a function. That's why it got executed. That's why it gave good morning in the output. Am I clear? Now, Sadi is saying repeat. Let's repeat quickly. Sadi, let's understand one very important point over there. JavaScript is a synchronous single-threaded programming language interpreted, which means it will start executing from here and execute it line by line. Now, when my JavaScript engine executes this line of code, at that point of time, what does it mean? It means go in the memory and see whether there is a key whose name is greet. And don't you think, even before executing a single line of code, which we have understood in our previous class, this is the memory representation that we have already have? Of course, sir. So when it goes in the memory, is there a key name that is greet with double T? Yes, sir, there is. And what is stored in front of that? Functions are. That's why when you write it like this, it actually gives you the output. But on the other hand, now once this executes itself, it gives good morning because it exists in the memory. This will be executed now. So when it executes greet with only T, one T, At that point of time, it will see whether this key is in the memory or not. Yes sir, it is. But is there a function stored in front of it? No sir. That's why this will not make any sense, this invocation. These brackets mean always I am trying to invoke, I am trying to make this a function, but it is not a function. So that is why when I actually go in the output and try to execute this code, the first function here, it gives me good morning, because in the memory there is a proper function. But on the other hand, if I try to see this, it says greet is not a function. If greet is not a function, then what is it? If greet is not a function, then what is it? Then what is it? What is it? It's a variable. So when first time you can see this greet, it's not a function, it's a variable. So if it is a variable, can't you simply console.log this greet? Yes, sir, I can. And in this case, if I try to execute this, you can clearly see this undefined now. It's a variable at that point of time. But when you try to access greet after it is defined, at that point of time, it actually knows what is stored in front of greet. This undefined will be updated with a function, and that's why you can actually call it here. Am I clear? Am I clear? So this is one of the major differences between function statement, function expression. Now, what is this concept called? This concept inside our JavaScript is called hoisting. What is this called? Hoisting. Hoisting means that when I am able to access an identifier even before declaring it. Don't you think you are able to access this identifier before declaring it? Don't you think you are able to access this particular identifier before declaring it? This concept inside our JavaScript is called hoisting. And one of the very important interview questions, write it in your notebook. Other interview question is, what is hoisting? First interview question was that what is the difference between function statement and function expression? Another interview question is, what is hoisting? So, what is the difference between now? If I have to conclude this, what is the difference between function statement and function expression? The difference is function statement is properly hoisted, which means if I have defined a function statement, I can properly call it even before declaring it. It will properly work. So, if you define a function like this, you can call it anywhere, above, below, daएं, बाएं, wherever you want to call it, you can call it everywhere. But on the other hand, if you define a function in a variable, and then if you want to call it and want to see its exact output, you must call it after it is properly declared. This is one of the very important differences that we have in our web application. In our function statement, function expression. Am I clear? Am I clear? Yes or no? Yes or no? Everyone, I need a quick response in the chat. I need a quick response. Now let's understand hoisting in a better way, related to at least variables. Okay, let's understand that. Let me remove this code, although let me try to comment this code quickly. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to write a simple code here, try to make you understand what actually happens here. So I will simply go write var a is equals to 10. Done. Very good. Then I will simply say console.log a. Perfectly fine. Very good. And if I try to execute this, you can clearly understand that there is 10 in the output, right? Very good, sir. On the other hand, if I simply go here, write console.log a, tell me what's going to happen. Tell me what's going to happen. If there's a console.log a on line number 21, what will be the output of this code? Quickly tell me. I will talk about that as well in few minutes. What will be the output of this code? Undefined, undefined. Very good, very good. Let's go here. Let me put some code. Console.log. I will simply say hello. Then I will simply go here, write console.log another code, and I will simply go write over there hello adf. Done. Now see, this is how I have written my code. Okay, this is what the code is. This is the real example of hoisting. Trust me and note it down exactly in this way. This is how actually things happen. My JavaScript engine that I have, when this code will be given to JavaScript engine, JavaScript engine will not just see this code like this, how I have actually created. But JavaScript engine will actually convert this code like this. The same code will be created like this, var a. Okay. Then I will simply have console.log a. Then I will simply have console.log and then hello. And then I will simply have console.log then bellow for sorry. Then I will simply have a is equals to 10 and then I will simply have console.log a. This is how JavaScript will understand this. So what are we trying to prove here? What are you doing? Whenever you define a variable, whenever, hoisting says this is the real definition of hoisting. There's one confusion that people actually have when anyone asks you hoisting, or if even if you see on the YouTube or anyone else, they will say hoisting is a concept with the help of which you can access your variables before declaring it. That's not hoisting. That's application of hoisting. Actual hoisting definition is in JavaScript. Note this down. This is the concept that we are actually discussing. Hoisting, not hosting. Hoisting. Hoisting says that whenever you define a variable, JavaScript will actually move that variable in declaration to the top of the scope. Simple as that. Hoisting says whenever you define a variable, JavaScript will actually move that variable declaration to the top of the scope. What does that mean? That means though my variable was defined on line number 24, but actually when it goes to JavaScript engine, this variable declaration or any other variable declaration will be moved to the top of the scope. This is what actual definition is. So when on line number 24, variable a is equals to 10, since it got moved to the top line, but only declaration, not initialization. So declaration is moved over here. Now you guys tell me, whenever we define a variable like this, simply we define identifier. What is automatically stored in this A? What is automatically stored in this A? When you define a variable, you don't put any value in it. What JavaScript puts in it? JavaScript actually puts undefined in it. So at this line of code, actually, my JavaScript holds undefined in it. Undefined in it. Because I have not told it where a is equals to 10. So since it got moved to the top of the scope, only the declaration, remember this, not initialization. Let me revise one very important topic. When we define a variable where a is equals to 10, this is contains two parts. This contains two parts. What does that mean? That means number one is where a, which means declaration of the variable. Then another one is initialization. This is called a declaration. This is called initialization. Remember this. That's what happens actually in every single variable whenever you define a variable in JavaScript engine. It does not matter where you define a variable. If you define a variable on line number 1000, its declaration will be moved to the top of the scope. That's how JavaScript engine works over there. Simple as that. So even though I defined a variable on line number 24, JavaScript engine will move the declaration of it on top of the scope. And this concept, this process is called hoisting. Am I clear? Am I clear? Am I clear? Yes or no? Rohit says, sir, but under the hood, कुछ move नहीं होता है. Some execution context, global context. हाँ, everything is done over there. Everything is done over there. Of course, that's why every execution will happen. So this is what we mean by hoisting. This is what we mean by hoisting. So declaration is moved on top of the scope. Now you guys tell me, even though my console.log a is the first line, but JavaScript engine will not treat console.log a as a first line, but every single variable declaration is moved to the top of the scope. How JavaScript engine will work where a is equals 10? That's what I'm saying. Now this is what JavaScript engine will do. On line number 24, where a is equals to 10 basu, right? But its declaration will be moved to the top of the scope. Only declaration. And wherever the initialization is happening on line number 24, over there the initialization will happen. Now you guys tell me, from here to here, what is the value of a? From here to here, in between, what is the value of a? What is the value of a in between of this? Of course, undefined. So until this, the value of a is undefined. That is why it's actually displaying undefined. Though even for us, when we look at this particular code over there, we would say, how can it store undefined in a, since we have not actually declared before this variable a? But it's for us. Hoisting moves already the declaration to the top of the scope, and that's why you can clearly see over it, it's undefined. That's how JavaScript actually knows that there are key value pairs a, b, greet, and whatever we have, because all of those variables and functions, they are moved to the top of the scope. And whenever the identifiers are moved to the top of the scope, this concept inside our JavaScript is called hoisting. And this is the real definition. Real. It's not hoisting. I have seen this. I have interviewed hundreds of people, and they say what hoisting is when we access our variables before declaration. No, that's not hoisting. That's not hoisting. Shweta says undefined because of declaration. Yes, because of declaration. So we simply have the declaration to the top. So since it's top, it means this variable got divided into two parts. The first part got moved to the top of the scope, even up this line. So of course, at this point of time, now A exists. It knows that's why A is undefined, right? And then whenever I have actually written A is equals to 10, over there actually it knows now A is updated. That's why after this you can actually execute and understand A is 10. After that you can access the value. Am I clear? Am I clear? Yes or no? JavaScript code run in two phases. One is memory allocation. That's what's execution. That's what we have discussed in our yesterday's class, right? Why we use hoisting? Don't you think, in terms of function hoisting, it plays a very important role? At least when we talk about web development, Basu, you need to understand one very important point. You update anything anywhere. So you don't have to have that एक वो होता है ना, वो तलवार आपके गर्दन पे नहीं होगी, that you have to take care, that you have to must upload this particular, update this particular variable after declaration. No. So you can update it anywhere. That's what we actually mean by hoisting. That's why we actually use hoisting in our real applications, because in web application anything can happen anywhere. So anything can happen anywhere. So we have freedom to actually implement such kind of things. So if we write console, it will give us not. If we write console.log b, if it's not in memory, how can it display undefined? Let's understand that. Let's understand one another example of hoisting here. Okay, let me remove this. Let's go over here. Okay, let's remove this. I will talk about let in few minutes only. Allow me few seconds first of all. Now let's go over here and let's simply go and write over there where b is equals to 20. Now when I define where b is equals to 20, then I will simply say console.log b, right? What am I doing? I'm simply doing over there where a is equals to 10, where b is equals to 10, and then in a similar way where c is equals to 20 or 30, let's suppose, and then I will simply say console.log c. Now, on the other hand, I'm simply going v, and over here I'm going to access b. I'm going to access c over there like this. Now, if you ask this particular question to a Java developer or any other developer, they will say no, 21, 22, 22 line, 23 line, they don't make any sense, because you cannot access your variable even before declaring it. It must be declared on top of them. And that's what JavaScript do. Even though our variable declarations are happening over here, but for JavaScript, that's not the case. JavaScript engine actually will convert this code like this: var a, then var b, then var c, then URID console.log a, then URID console.log b, URID console.log c. Then after that, leave these two lines. Then actually initialization is happened. A is 10, then happens console.log a, then b becomes 20, then c becomes 230, whatever it is. So declarations are moved to the top of the scope. That is why over here it gives undefined, because declarations are already done. They are already moved to the top of the scope of every variable. So even the variable is defined on line number 1000, line number 3000, it does not matter. The declaration will be moved to the top of the own scope. Am I clear? Am I clear? Yes or no? Yes or no? Please give me a quick confirmation before I move to let and constant. Quickly, guys. Done, very clear, perfectly fine. And honestly, I would say one thing before we move forward to let and constant. See, today is Sunday, right? And everyone would be at home, right? We will talk about that, Ankit, in a second. We will discuss scope in today's class properly. Although my discussion was supposed to be around functions only, but let's change a little bit discussion, understand the scope thing properly. Everyone will be at home right now, right? When I say home, I mean chutti hai aaj. And yet I can see only 30 to 32 students in the class. Is it like that Sunday is not a good time for classes? Because I need feedback. It's not like I want 33, so I want 100 students in the class. Right? There are 259 students in the Google Classroom. 259 who have joined Google Classroom, which means they were serious at some point of time. 400 in our WhatsApp group. Although I don't have a way, otherwise I would have filtered out those students and I would have removed them from the WhatsApp group. When anyone leaves the WhatsApp group, trust me, I become very happy because I understand. Okay, one unserious student has left the WhatsApp group and left the chat. And like you guys tell me, 400 students are in the class. Can you justify 34 numbers in the class? Can you justify 34 numbers in the class? 34 students? No, no one can, right? So if there is any time issue, let's talk about that. If the, any other day you want, let's do that as well. You don't want Sunday, Saturday, Sunday class, let's do that as well. You want Monday, Tuesday class, let's do that as well. The point is, let's try to find out the same time where everyone is at least comfortable. This is not acceptable. I will have only 36 students. Although if you ask me, I am happy about 36 students only as well, but provided if there are 60 students in the WhatsApp group. But if there are 400 students, this does not make any sense, right? So let's find out. Let's create a poll after the class and let's see what better day would be there to take classes and what better time would be there. Let's understand that. Okay, perfect. Let's come back and understand now another thing. I hope at least until now, if anyone will ask you what is hoisting, do not never say that hoisting is a concept with help of which we can actually access our variables before declaration. No, hoisting is a concept that allows our functions and variables to move to the top of the scope. Done. Now let's understand the same problem with respect to our let and constant. Okay, let's go over there and let's try to understand this simple, very simple thing here. Okay, let's understand. I will define let a is equals to 10. Very good, right? Very good. Let a is equals to 10. And then if I simply go write console.log a, it properly will display a because I'm accessing it after its declaration. You can see 10 is in the output. But if I write console.log a, and then if I try to execute this, you can clearly see it gives me cannot access a before initialization. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Cannot access a before initialization. See, there are two errors that you can actually observe. Look at the errors. That's what will actually explain you hoisting related to let related to constant. You will understand in 2 minutes. Okay. The error at this point of time is cannot access a before initialization. Very good. After that, I will simply remove this. In this case, I am going to execute this code and let's understand observe error. What does it? What's the error? A is not defined. So what's happening over here? There are two errors. Cannot access a before initialization. Then a is not defined. Are you able to visualize two different errors here? So if you ask anyone, like most of the freshers or most of the people, when we define a variable with let or constant, let's talk about let only. Is hoisting supported there? People will say no, hoisting is not supported. But what is hoisting? The concept of hoisting is not clear to them. They will say no, it's not. Because their definition of hoisting is, are we able to access variable before declaration. That's not the definition. That's never hoisting. That's not hoisting. Not even 1% hoisting. The definition is whether the variable is moved to the top of the scope or not. That is the definition. When we say at this point of time, line number 33, when we say console.log a, the error is a is not defined because it simply tries to find a in the what is this called memory. A is not there and it simply prints a is not defined. But on the other hand, when I have a code like this, and in this case if I try to access, it says a cannot be accessed. So there's a difference of error. What does this error mean? Cannot access a before initialization. Can I say at this point of time somehow this error is trying to tell me I know a is there, but I'm not able to access it? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? This error is trying to tell me I know a is there, but I'm not able to access it. There's a difference. In our previous case, a is not defined, which means there's no a does not exist. In this case, it says cannot access a before initialization. What does that mean? That means, okay, I can see a somewhere. I can see a somewhere, but I'm not able to access it before initialization. So it means even though on line number 33, I am having console.log a, it's not giving me the another error, but it is giving me cannot access a before initialization. It means somewhere it is able to locate a, but it's not able to access it. And that somewhere where let its declaration is, that area, that space inside our JavaScript is called temporal dead zone. Am I clear? Am I clear? Understand this point. This is a very important point. And I will guarantee you, find hundreds videos, no one will make you understand it like this. 100 videos on YouTube and send me clip. Guaranteed. Understand it. It says cannot access a before initialization. It means simple. A hai kahin pe. A is there somewhere, but I am not able to access it. On the other case, when I will not have a somewhere like this, if I try to access it, it says a is not defined. A kahin pe hai hi nahi. Tata bye bye, khatam. And which means when I define let a also gets moved to the top of the scope. But that area where it actually gets moved, I don't have access of that. That is why that area is called temporal dead zone. Over there, the dead zone hai. So if there goes any declaration, I am not able to access it. So this particular area where let and constant goes, that area actually is simply temporal dead zone. You cannot access variables from them. So it means let and constant are hoisted. Yes, sir, they are properly hoisted. But in an area where we cannot access them before initialization, called as temporal dead zone. And we know let and constant are not original keywords for JavaScript. They were later on introduced in JavaScript. We have where only. So if anyone asks you what's temporal dead zone, will we be able to answer them? Yes or no? So it means in this case as well, it will actually make sure that let a is transferred to the top of the scope. Then when we write our console.log a over there like this, then we will write a is equals to 10, and then we will write console.log a. This is also what JavaScript will do. But this declaration will actually move to part of an engine where I cannot access it, and that's what we mean by temporal dead zone. What is this called? A temporal dead zone. Zone means area, zone means space. That space of our engine where it is dead zone, where we cannot access them. What will happen if I do something like this in our code? Let a colon, then I will simply say console.log a like this, right? It's undefined, right? So let's see whether it will print undefined or not. It prints undefined. But on the other hand, at this point of time, if you see, sir, this would have been worked very good, but this declaration is not in temporal dead zone. But once we define this let a at the below of this, at this point of time, this a goes, the hoisting sends this into a zone where we cannot access it, and that is called a temporal dead zone. I hope that makes sense. Am I clear? Am I clear? All the variables declarations will define in a similar way. Same thing will happen. Same thing. Let's talk about constant. Let's suppose I have a constant variable. So constant a is equals to 20. Done. Of course, if I try to access a over here, it properly makes sense, it properly will be executed there. But on the other hand, if I simply go at console.log a, and then if I try to execute it, you can clearly see it gives me the same error. It says cannot access a. I cannot access a. A is there. I'm not able to access it. But on the other hand, let's understand one another very important fundamental here. Leave everything aside. Leave everything aside. Let's suppose for our discussion for a second over here, it supports hoisting properly, which means I will simply convert into a top of the scope like this console.log a, then it goes a is equals to 20 and console.log a. Tell me one very important fundamental of JavaScript. Can we ever leave our variable that is defined by constant keyword like this without initialization? Is that possible inside our JavaScript? No. Whenever we define a variable in the console, we must initialize it. We must. It must be initialized over there only. Always and always. And also, the constant is also let keyword. Let is at least hoisted in our what is this called temporal dead zone. But on the other case, if I simply write constant b like this, it's not allowed. It's not allowed. We cannot create a variable with a constant keyword and then leave it uninitialized. We must initialize it, and that's what we can see here. I hope hoisting concept is completely clear. We know what temporal dead zone is. We know how let behaves. It is hoisted. If anyone will ask you, hey, is let hoisted? Yes, sir, let is hoisted. Constant is hoisted. But they are actually hoisted in a zone where we cannot reach. They are hidden in that part of our JavaScript engine where we cannot reach. And that zone is called a temporal dead zone. And it's temporary for there. Because when I initialize it, I will simply get it back from there and we properly will be able to access it. That's what we mean by temporal dead zone. Who asked me that question? What is temporal dead zone? I hope that is understood. Garbage collector is, of course, here everywhere is garbage collector, Rohit. Whether we have that concept here as not even if we don't talk about that, that's something else. But garbage collector is everywhere. Don't you see that whenever function invocation happens, function executes its code, the memory at that point of time, it does not make any sense, so it's removed. Garbage collector comes and collects it. कचरा वाला आता है और निकाल के जाता है. Of course, it's everywhere in every memory consumption. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Now let's move a little bit forward and let's try to understand few other examples of functions, because today's class is not related to scope. We have one another class for that scope. We have understood hoisting here, so hoisting is completely clear. Okay, I hope Basu is saying, sir, you are really great. मैं जानता था but clear नहीं था, बहुत confused था. I hope that now the hoisting is completely clear. No one will face any issues. You can properly explain. Like when you sit in the interview and you will explain hoisting like this, interviewer should be मजबूरी में वो बोलेगा that where have you learned this concept. ठीक है ना? तो मेरा नाम लेना, ठीक है ना? Let's go and let's discuss few other types of functions. I hope at least right now the difference between function statement and function expression is quite clear. So function expression do not support hoisting properly. Function statement supports hoisting everywhere. Although this also supports hoisting if we come to that definition. This supports hoisting, this supports hoisting. But over here, when we try to access it before declaration, we can access properly. We can see what the output of this function is. Over here, we will always get this as a variable before declaration. The third type of function is called fat arrow functions. And this is what you will use 100% time. 100% time. I'm not saying 99, although let's say 90%. Fat arrow functions. When we talk about fat arrow functions, it's simply a different representation of functions. Although there's a proper difference between fat arrow and this, we will understand that in one of the classes when we discuss this keyword. Okay, over there we will understand the main difference between fat arrow and another function later on. But I will definitely give you the real essence of fat arrow function in today's class as well. Fat arrow function is nothing but a representation of a function in a different way. It makes our writing functions very easier in JavaScript. Let me give you a simple example. We have a function like this. Although we try to convert our variable expressions. Give me a second. There's a noise. Let me try to mute for a second, and then we will start our class again. So there's a noise that you might be hearing right now. So allow me a minute before it vanishes, and then we'll start. Am I audible now? Is there any noise, guys? Basically, there's election, in few days, and there are a lot of parties that are coming and going. Last doubt. Please put that doubt in the chat. Okay, let's suppose I have a fat arrow. I have a normal function. Let's suppose this is a function expression. So where greet is equals to a function, then I simply have a function like this. It says, let's suppose it says some statements, whatever those statements are, and it finally returns something, whatever it returns. Now, when we talk about our fat arrow function, remember there are different versions of JavaScript. Like when we had first time normal JavaScript, then another version came, then another version came. So updations were always happening in JavaScript. Very soon there will be another version of JavaScript in which we will get a lot of new things. Previously, a few days back, another version was launched. So there are a lot of versions that get updated. There are a lot of things get updated in JavaScript, and you have to keep yourself updated always. In one of the versions in JavaScript called as ECMAScript 6, ES6 version, a lot of new things were given to JavaScript. That's why ECMAScript 6 is too much famous. Like everyone talks about ECMAScript 6 because it gave us fat arrows. It gave us, I think, let constant as well, different representation of class as well. So if I'm not wrong, so a lot of new things were given in ECMAScript 6 version of JavaScript, and that's where this fat arrow actually came from. Okay, now, what does fat arrow mean? Fat arrow means the same function which you have defined like this, the same function can be actually created in a far better way. Like we simply try to remove function keyword. We simply write bracket and then we write a fat arrow like this. So until here, everything is same. Though this portion and this portion is same in both functions. Now this function gets actually converted into this particular thing and this arrow, and then rest of the things are same. So statements, whatever the statements are, whatever it's going to return. This is what a function is. This is what another representation of function is. It's called fat arrow function. And fat arrow functions plays a very important role in JavaScript. Like if you see later on, once we move forward, once we try to understand different concepts inside our JavaScript, you will see me. I will only be using fat arrow functions, not any other functions. Only fat arrow functions. This fat arrow function is used everywhere. Let's see a real example of it in our code. We have our one of the functions here. Let's put this greet function. I'm going to convert the same greet function to a fat arrow function. So what will I do? I will simply go right where greet is equals to a bracket fat arrow like this. And what it is going to do, it's going to print console.log good evening, right? And then I will simply go right over there, call a function called as greet, right? And now if I simply try to execute this, you can clearly see it works. So this is also a function because I invoked it and it worked. So the same function that I have now, just to remove the function keyword, we don't have to write function everywhere. You can clearly see I am able to create a fat arrow version of it as well. And this, whenever you see a function created like this, it's simply a different syntax of function. Though there is a difference, we have a this keyword, we have different very important implementations of it. We will see that later in one of the classes. Remind me that there, although I always will teach you that. I will teach you that as well on that class. Leave it, don't remind me. Now see this fat arrow function, I have simply removed the function keyword and I've simply created greet. The most important application of fat arrow function is when there is only one statement inside our function, which is return statement. Whenever you have a function that's simply returning a simple thing, at that point of time we use fat arrow functions. Let's give me a simple example. I will talk about that. Vasu, give me some time. So let us suppose I will simply define a variable. It's the name is add, and it is a simple function over here. And what it is supposed to do, it's simply supposed to receive an argument x, where it is simply supposed to return x plus x. Okay. Now the same function, let me try to convert into a fat arrow function. So I will simply write var over there. The name of the function will be add over there. Although I can write same add again because it's a var, so it can be updated. Var allows us updation as well, redeclaration as well, right? So then over there, I will simply go define fat arrow function, not this function. So fat arrow function like this. Now, why do we provide actually arguments in fat arrow function inside this bracket? So I can add x, comma y, comma z, whatever I have, but in this case, we have only x. And what am I going to do? I'm simply going to say return x plus x. Over here, if I simply call my add function, so add 4, and then over there, if I call my add function, add 6, everything is going to properly work because both of them make proper sense. So if I try to execute them, it says good evening. Why is it not displaying the output of this function? So let me try to execute it again. So it's saying good evening only. Why? Where add is equals to function. Okay, it's returning. Sorry, my mistake. So since it's returning, we have to console it. Always remember, whenever your function returns something, it is not going to be console on its own. Now we know that in our previous example, in our previous class as well, whenever you want to print something that it returns, put it in a variable. So I will simply say where sum is equals to add 4. Now over here, whatever it returns, it gets stored in a variable sum. So now I can simply say console.log sum. Done. Then over there, I will simply go in a similar way. I will define my variable where I will go write sum is equals to what? Add 5. And then if I simply go write console.log sum, you can see both of the outputs now properly working. So if I execute it, it says 8 and 10. Right? Both of them are properly working. Very good. Of course, we can use without return as well. Don't you think I have used functions over here without return? When you don't put a return inside a function at that point of time, note it down, it automatically returns undefined. Your function returns undefined at that point of time. It every time returns something. It has to return. Function will always have a return statement. But if you do not mention return at that point of time, it returns undefined. Okay. So now see, this is the function where I have only one return statement. And over there, this is the function where I also have the same return statement. So I have converted this function into this function. But sir, you actually told me whenever there is a single return at that point of time, it is used very much. But I don't see there's that much change between this and this. Let me tell you actually what the case is. Whenever you have a function in which you have to return only one statement, this is how you will simply define it: x, then return x plus x. This is how simple it is. This is how simple it is. Whenever we have only one return statement in a function, in that case, you don't have to write curly braces. You don't have to write return statement. It automatically knows that this add is supposed to return this x plus x. So don't you think that this syntax is far better than this syntax? I can, of course, write the same thing in this Fedora case as well, but that's not what I will do. Whenever my function returns only one statement, this is how I'm going to write it. So even in this case as well, if I try to execute it, properly works. You can see 10 in the output. So this is the most huge application of fat arrow functions. That whenever it returns only one statement, we can write it in one line. Simple as that. Even in this case, can I remove this bracket? Let's see. So if I have var x colon something like that, and if I execute it, what's the output? 10. So it's very simple syntax. Whenever it's having only one return statement. But if there are multiple return statements, then in that case it becomes very difficult. Very good. That's a very good suggestion, Shweta. Very good suggestion. Let me create one another file. So I will simply go write functions 2.js. Okay. Let me go and let me call this function. Allow me a second and let me put here. Very good suggestion. Very good suggestion. Now see, this is a normal function, a function expression. And if I try to execute it, you can clearly see it actually prints as soon as I write console.log sum. You can clearly see as soon as I execute it, it prints 8. But the same function actually can be converted into a fat arrow function in a very basic way, very simple way, which is I can simply write over there var add is equals to x and then please return x plus x, where this x is simply an argument and this x plus x is what it is returning. So you guys tell me, is this simple way of writing a function that includes only one return statement, or is this a simple way that writes return statement, only one return statement? Which is better? Of course, the line number 4 is better, and you will use it too many times in React, in our web development. Whenever we will have our fat arrow function, in most of the cases, we use fat arrow function whenever there's only one return statement. Whenever, and there are hundreds and thousands of applications of that. So make yourself comfortable around this syntax. Make yourself comfortable around this syntax. I will give you a small homework right now over there. I will give you then 2 minutes as well. So let's suppose I have a function. Let's suppose over I have a function where greed, and what it is supposed to do, it's simply supposed to have a function. That function says, let's suppose uh, hello. So now let's say y argument, and then what it does is it simply returns hello plus y, something like that. Now you guys convert this particular function into a fat arrow function. You have 2 minutes of time and write in a single line in your comment section quickly. Convert this function from line to 11 into a fat arrow function. Everyone must don't copy paste. अगर कॉपी पेस्ट करोगे भी आपकी अपनी उसमें नुकसान है ना. So it's better to not copy paste. Don't see what others are typing in the chat. Write on your own. Govind says this one. Okay, let's see whether it's correct or not. Anyone else? This will also give me idea about the students who are active in the class. Okay, and I told you in the WhatsApp that whoever will join these two classes, they will be given preference for mock interviews. Let me take a video of it only for that purpose, so that these students will be given preference. Those students who will reply in the chat, do it. Don't worry about it. So these students will be definitely given preference for free mock interviews as soon as we complete our React. That's a promise from my side. Very good. Very good. Whether it is correct or incorrect, I don't care about that. I want you guys to give your effort. Whether it's correct or not, it does not matter. Now, Chandrika, for you, remember, whenever we write our fat arrow way, this is not what I asked. Like, this is correct. Now, whenever your function returns only one statement, if you can see on line number 10, it returns only one statement. If you want to convert into a fat arrow function, you can remove those curly brace and return. It will properly work. That return keyword that you have written and that curly brace, remove it. That is the shortest way of fat arrow functions. Okay? Like you can see rest of the students as well, how they are typing. That is the exact way. Whenever it returns one statement, we don't have to write return keyword, and we don't have to put curly braces as well. No, Shubham, we cannot put curly braces if your function is returning only one statement. In this case, you are consoling it. In that case, we have to write our, curly brace. Perfect. Very good, Chandrika. Great. Kavya, Basu, Simita, teach piece. Noman, very good. But sir, we can use it only when, yes, this syntax is only at that point of time valid when there's only one statement in it, one return statement. If there are multiple statements, this syntax won't be implemented. And Suryansh, you will see hundreds of such cases, such applications in your web application very soon. At this point of time, we are just learning. We are not implementing things. Are we implementing things? No, we are learning. So just remember, you will see hundreds of applications for this application. Only one return. Yes, that's why when it's going to be very much important. That's when it's going to be implemented, not other way around. Perfect. Is there anyone who is also typing? Shall I move forward? Perfect. So I have stopped the video. I have captured all of the students. So thank you so much. Perfect, guys. Okay, great. Okay. So now we are going to move our discussion to some other topics. But before that, we will take a break of 10 minutes. And then we are going to resume our session exactly after 10 minutes. Okay. So let's take a quick break. Do not leave the class. Stay here. Do not come back after 10 minutes. यहीं पे रहो और practice करो. ठीक है ना? Write some code in the chat. Is this correct, sir? If this is a function, can I convert it into fat arrow function like this? Implement few things. Okay, implement few things. Okay, so now Basu is asking Ola. Ola, what does Ola mean? Where, okay, where, okay, you are calling the function Ola. Where Ola is this? Why this error? We are using where. So it should be, no, you are calling the function. Remember this, very good over here. Now see, if I call this greet over here, how this code will be converted by JavaScript? Let's understand that quickly. In this case, what's going to happen? It is going to convert this code into like this, where greet. Then you are calling greet function. Then you are actually updating your greet with function code like this. Is this how JavaScript engine will take it, Basu? Of course, yes. Now, at this point of time, let's understand this code. Do you think when this function is being invoked at that point of time, is greet variable or function? Is this greet variable or function? It's a variable. Since it's a variable, you cannot invoke it. Putting brackets in front of it does not make any sense. Yes, if you console it over there, it will display undefined. But if you will invoke it, it's not a function, it's a variable at that point of time. That's why it's going to give you an error because you are invoking a function. It's not a function at that point of time. Very good, Dibyandu. But once it's updated, then it will be treated as a function. But between this and this, it is a variable that holds undefined. So you can console it, not invoke it. You cannot call it between this. Okay, I hope this makes sense. So let's take a quick break of 10 minutes. So let me clear this. Not quick break of 10 minutes, 10 minutes break of 10 minutes. So let's go here. Let's take a 10 minutes break. See you guys exactly after 10 minutes. समझ नहीं आया ब्रेक के बाद समझाते हैं ठीक है ना Okay, see you guys exactly after 10 minutes. Hey guys, hi everyone, welcome back. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible? Am I visible? Hello guys, hi everyone. Hello, 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 hi. So let me put a message to the WhatsApp group and ask them to join back. Perfect. Okay. I can see people are joining. Hi Sharad. Hi everyone. Perfect. Great. Okay. So where were we? Okay. So Basu said before break that he has not understood actually related to this why it's just giving an error, right? Basu, you need to understand that, and everyone needs to understand this. Hoisting is not about this particular part. Hoisting is about this particular part related to the declarations. When this code is given to JavaScript, JavaScript will move this variable to the top of the scope. That's what hoisting is. Since variable is moved to the top of the scope, so we have var greet at top, right? And the rest of the code. What is the rest of the code? Then this will be properly placed. So over there, I will have to call greet. Done. And then the same greet will be updated over there with the function that we have actually defined here, function y return hello plus y, right? What does that mean? That means if now I have to understand what this is going to give me in the output, at this point of time, let's understand the memory consumption as well. So in memory consumption, there will be only one key value pair called as greet, and that greet will have undefined in its value, right? So when we call this function here, it will try to find greet value in the memory. So when it tries to find this greet value in the memory, it will simply see what its value is. Its value a function or is its value a undefined? It's undefined. Can you call undefined as a function? No, you cannot call undefined as a function. So greet is not a function. It's not a function. It's a variable that holds undefined. That's why over here, when you call it, it gives you an error. But on the other hand, instead of this, if you simply write console.log greet, it is going to give you undefined because greet is a variable, not function. I hope that makes sense, Basuna. Okay. Now, Ashu says, can you please, in that case, let we know, let is hoist in the temporal dead zone. Concept will be everywhere same. Concept is same. If it is let, it is going to also give you an error. There's no greet function, below this line number 9. It's always same. Whatever we have discussed later, let same thing. Okay. Now Ashwi is asking, can you please repeat console greet function? What does that mean? That means, does it mean, first of all, let's convert this function into a fat arrow function if anyone has any issues. So the same function with the variable greet is going to be simply a fat arrow function called as y colon that returns what? That returns hello plus y, something like this. And in this case, if I simply try to call my greet, let's call my greet with a variable hello adfar, right? And let me put a space here. So now if I try to execute it, it says there's an error, of course, because you cannot call it. So let me remove this. Let me clear this and execute it. It simply gives you, okay, since it's a variable, we have to console it. So console.log and then simply call greet function like this. So if I execute, it gives me hello adfar, right? So simply, this is the exact version what this does, but in using function keyword, using function expression. This is function fat arrow functions. Now tell me one thing, Sir Govind. Its name fat arrow, fat F-A-T. It is fat arrow functions because there's an arrow that we actually use. It's called fat arrow, not fat arrow. Fat arrow. Okay, I hope that makes sense. That moves. Let's move to our fourth type of function called as anonymous functions. Also one of the very important types of functions used very much in the JavaScript and also asked in the interviews as well. So write this in the interview section. What is anonymous function? It's also asked in the interviews, and show me an example of anonymous function. Just to remember, anonymous functions are those types of functions in our JavaScript that do not have name. So without name, a function without name is called a anonymous function. So function without a name is called an anonymous function. Simple as that. Let me give an example. Do you think this function that I have defined over there, it has a name? This function? No, it does not have a name. It does not have a name. You will say, no, sir, greet. No, greet is a variable name. It's not a function name. Yes, this variable later on hold is the function, but it does not have a name. So this function that I've highlighted, it is anonymous function. But there's also one another visual representation that we actually use for anonymous functions. So let me try to hide this code and let me simply create anonymous function. When we have an anonymous function, there's also one very important representation of anonymous function which you might use very often. Okay, what is that? We simply will define a function like this, function without a name, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. And what it is supposed to do, it's simply supposed to console.log adfor or whatever it's supposed to do. Even let's suppose it's supposed to print x, and then it's simply supposed to put x plus 3. That's what it's supposed to do. So we can clearly understand that this function is an anonymous function without a name. But if it is a function without a name, how do we call it? That's one very important question. How do we call a function? Like, of course, we can understand that this is an anonymous function, but at least it has an identifier that is greet. With the help of variable, we can actually access it. But on the other hand, when we define a function like this, how can we call it? Remember, this type of function, wrap it inside a bracket and then simply go over there and call it like this. Okay, now I don't know why I have put a fat arrow here because it's a function keyword. Now we can clearly see there's an issue, this issue. Okay, see, from here to here we have this function. Wrap it inside a bracket over there and then put this bracket there, it immediately invokes it. So this type of function, when you define a function like this, it also has one other name called as immediately invoked function. Immediately invoked functions. So this is anonymous function, but I'm not talking about this type of function. I'm talking about this type of function. Whenever you have a function, directly write function without a name, you simply wrap it inside a bracket and then immediately call it as soon as that function ends. And now since it receives X argument, you can pass argument over here as well. And then if I call it, you can clearly see it gives me an output called as 8. 5 plus 3 is 8. Now, this is immediately invoked function, also called as anonymous function, because it does not have a name. And also remember, this type of function, whenever you see a syntax like this, it can be only invoked once. It can be only called once. So this type of function, yes, this type of function is both anonymous and immediately invoked functions. So all immediately invoked functions are anonymous functions, but all anonymous functions are not immediately invoked functions, because you can see this function does not have a name, but I can invoke it later on as well. So if anyone says anonymous functions are those types of functions that do not have a name and can be called only once, that's not how that works. This is the immediately invoked function which can be called only once, but it's also anonymous. So anonymous functions are those types of functions inside our JavaScript that do not have any name associated with them. And then however they are supposed to work, they will work like that. So anonymous function, let me quickly write it over here. So if I write this anonymous function, immediately invoked function, you simply define a function like this. Whatever it's supposed to do, it does that. Whatever it's supposed to do. Then you simply invoke it immediately there. And then you close the bracket. So this is invocation. Invocation. And this from here to here, this is function definition. Now the same function that I have, it can also be represented inside callback function. Sorry, in terms of fat arrow function. So I will simply call it like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, and then I will simply immediately invoke it. This is also one other representation of our function. So let me define. Let's suppose I will simply go console.log adfer. Can we invoke our fat arrow functions? I think not, because it's giving me an error. So it is saying comma expected. I don't think so. So I don't think we can execute it like this. So let me put X and let me put 5. No, it does not work like this. So unfortunately, although there is a syntax, I might have forgotten that, but you cannot put fat arrow functions like this in anonymous. You have to put a function like this only. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Sorry, let me remove this one. Let me see it later on as well. If there's any other alternation of it, we will discuss that as well. So I hope we are clear with what fat arrow functions is. Sir, why need for this function? Because later on, when we will be actually implementing other types of functions, those functions will actually receive another functions in between. and those functions will be without nameless. So there's too much implementation of it. Another thing, Govind, don't you think that this is the real implementation of anonymous function? So over here you can clearly understand why we need this function. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? There are a lot of applications. As of now, as I said, we will learn only the concept. Later on, we will see its implementations. Once we move to the web development part, and you will later on see hundreds of applications of anonymous functions. You define functions without names because they immediately get invoked instantly as an argument or something like that. That's why, let me even show you anonymous function invocation, anonymous function application in a second. In an example, one other type of function called is callback functions. Now, this is one of the most important functions in JavaScript. One of the most important functions. In web development, this is used too much. Callback functions. And it is also a very important interview question as well when we talk about callback function. Let's understand what callback function is. Simple definition. It is a function. It is a function that is passed as an argument to another function. To another function. So the function that we pass as an argument to another function is called a callback function. Let's understand an example of it. So let me go here and let me define this another file here. So I will simply go define callback.js here. Let me define a simple function like this. So function, the name of the function is add, and what it is supposed to do, it's simply supposed to console.log. Let me pass some arguments, which is x, y. Then I will simply go right over there. Please console what? Please console x plus y. Simple function, right? And then over there, I will simply go at console.log. Sorry, not console, since it's consoling already. So I can call my add with an argument 4, 5. And if I try to execute this, you can clearly see this is 9. It's a normal function, at least at this point of time. But now I will simply go here and I will simply tell it invoke this x. What am I doing? I am telling it invoke this x and then please console.log my y. So from this particular definition, what can you deduce? What can you understand? Can anyone tell me in the chat? If you look at this definition, if you look at this code over there, function add, line number 2, and understand the whole code, what can you deduce from it? If I don't pass argument, will it give error? Which one? No. Function never give errors if you don't pass. In that case, it will be undefined plus undefined. That is NaN. It will give you NaN in the output. What does this actually tell you over there? If you try to deduce something from it, everyone can understand one thing. That it means when I will call this function, x is supposed to be a function. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? That according to this definition, if I look at it, I can at least deduce one simple point from it, that whenever I will call, x is not a normal number here, but x is a function. X is supposed to be a function because I am invoking it. So it means it won't be 4 now, but it will be a function. So I can simply define, let's suppose, another function. So what am I going to do? I'm simply going to define, let's suppose, a function here, and that function will be call callback, like this. You can give it any name, and it's supposed to print console.log hello. Now over there, I will simply pass this callback as an argument. So what is this x now? So automatically you can clearly see I am not calling this function directly in the global scope, but I am calling this function inside add. So automatically you can see I am passing function as an argument. That makes this function as a callback function. Remember this. One of the very important points in our JavaScript, and you will use callbacks too much. Remember, that's why I said that in my JavaScript, functions are the heart of JavaScript. And you should be able to at least understand until now in today's class why functions have that much usage in our JavaScript, because there are a lot of things that you can do with functions, a lot of types in JavaScript. Some of you might know C, some of you might know C++, Java, Python. Do you see these many types in any programming language? I don't think so. Maybe not, but I don't think so if you ask me. We have function declaration, function expression, first order functions. We have anonymous function. We have fat arrow function. We have callback function. And there's one another type of function which we will see in a few minutes. So what do we have? This callback here. What is this callback? So it simply means one very simple thing here. When this function will be called, this will be mapped to x. This 5 will be mapped to y. And when you go, it will be executed. It simply will see callback bracket. So over there, it actually means I am calling my callback here like this. So callback, this function will be actually invoked here, and it will print console.log hello, then will print console.log y. But the point that I'm trying to make you understand actually is that I am passing a function as an argument. Now, the function that I am actually passing as an argument, that function is called a callback function. So, in this whole code that you can see in front of it, is my add callback function, or is my, let me give it a better name instead of callback, let me simply say it is greet. Okay, and let me simply pass greet here. Now you guys tell me, is my greet callback function or add callback function? Which function is callback function in this case? Which function is callback function? Greet is the callback function. Very good. So the function that you pass as an argument is callback function. Remember that. Add is not callback function. No. The function that you pass as an argument is callback function. That is the definition Ashutek. Add is not. Greet is. Because greet is the function that is being passed as an argument here. So this greet becomes a callback function. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Let's repeat what callback is slowly and aram se. ठीक है ना? Callback functions are those functions that can be passed or that are passed as an argument to another function. We will talk about that, Govind, in a second as well. So callback function are those types of function that are passed as an argument to another function. In this case, if you see, greet is the function which is being passed as an argument to another function, not add. Now remember another point. The function that receives another argument as a function that receives function as another argument is called a higher order function. So in this case, add becomes higher order function. Greet is a normal callback function, add becomes higher order function. Am I clear? It brings me to one other type of function called as higher order functions. At this point of time, we can clearly say higher order functions are those functions that receive functions as an argument, which is add in this case. So add is higher order function, greet is a callback function. Now let's understand line number 2. What line number 2 means. See, we know that when we call add, the first argument will be passed to first parameter, second argument will be passed to second parameter. So can I say at this point of time when this function is actually called, my x is nothing but greet? Can I say that? X is nothing but greet? Of course, yes. It means when line number 2 will be executed, it means it's actually greet with brackets. I will talk about all that. We'll talk about that in a second. Right? Am I clear? Am I clear? You can clearly see x becomes greet because this will be mapped to first argument. So x bracket meaning greet bracket. So it means over here this greet function is actually being called. So over here it will print console.log hello. Then it goes and executes this. Then it will print console.log y. That's why if I execute, you can see hello first, then y. Now whoever asked me that, please repeat line number 2. Is this clear now? Is this clear? Is this clear? Very good. Now there might be another example here of how we can actually pass our callback functions. Okay, I hope that let's discuss that as well. On the other case, I will simply define one other. I will call this add function again. Second argument will be, let's suppose, 67. But first argument, instead of calling greet, I can define directly a function here as well. Now, is this function anonymous function or a normal function? Is this anonymous function or normal function? This is real implementation of anonymous functions. It's a function without name, but it's a function. And then it will be mapped to x, and x is called. So anonymous functions are very often used in callback functions. And there are thousands of implementations of callback functions. JavaScript, asynchronous JavaScript that we will see later on after few classes, that entirely revolves around our callback functions. Entirely. 100% revolves around callback functions. So now over there, I will simply say world. Now in this case, tell me what will be the output. Let me try to comment this code, right? Look at this code. So if I go and execute this code, what will be the output? And what will be the order of the output? Quickly tell me. In which order the output will be? Anyone? Very good. So the order will be simply, it's simple that at this point of time, this x will be mapped to this function which is executing console.log world. So when this is called, it will print world in the output. Then it will print y, which is 67 in this case. So if I try to execute this, it prints actually in the output world and 67. So in this case, this function that I from here to here, it's a callback function. Now, another implementation, another way of writing the same callback function can be like this. So I will simply go here, call my add. Now, in this add, I will simply pass a fat arrow function. And then I will simply go give another argument, let's say adfar. Now, in this callback function, let's suppose it simply says console.log and it simply says, hey. So in this case, if you look at this particular code, you will be properly able to visualize it that this fat arrow function is an anonymous fat arrow function and it will be passed and mapped to x. So when x is called, it will print hey and then console.log y, it prints adfar. So if I try to execute, it prints hey adfar. Simple, right? This is what we mean by callback function. And among these three, like this is one of the ways of writing callback function. This is one of the ways of writing callback function. This is one of the ways of writing callback function. Among these three, this is the most used way form of writing a callback function by implementing fat arrow there. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Can I call y? You can call y only if y is a function. Guys, you tell me one thing. If I write somewhere z bracket, what does it mean? What does it mean? Manmohan, what does it mean? Everyone, what does it mean? When I write z bracket, what does it mean? It means z is supposed to be a function. If z is a function, you can invoke it. If it is not, it's going to throw an error. Try to understand when you write z bracket, what does it mean? It means go in the memory, see what is stored in front of z. If it is a function, call it. If it is not a function, it's going to say z is not a function. That is why if I go here and write y bracket, so if I write y bracket, it means I'm trying to invoke my y. And if I try to execute, you can see hey, then error. Because y is not a function actually. So if y is not a function, it automatically means it's going to give an error there. So y is supposed to be a function. You can pass another callback function here if you want. So I can simply go instead of adfar here, I can pass one other callback function, completely up to me. It's not necessary a function will have only one callback function. I can simply go say, hey, hi. In this case, x became a function, callback function. Y became a callback function. X will be mapped to this. Y will be mapped to this. Of course, yes. So in this case, if I try to execute this, you can see it says, hey, hi, and then I'm printing my y as well. That's why it gives me function which is anonymous in nature. So y is anonymous. I mean, like x, what does that mean? Do you mean x in the uppercase? Do you mean x in the uppercase? X cannot be uppercase. It's case sensitive. It has to be lowercase only. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Now for Adil asked me to repeat higher order function. In this case, please tell me one thing. Let me try to comment this code and let me do one thing. Let me try to comment this code and I will define one another function. So let me say function, let's say by. And in this by function, I will simply say console.log by. Now, then after that, look at this code properly. Okay. Then I will simply go and write call my add. And in this case, I will simply put greet as the first argument, comma. I can put by as the second argument. So greet will be mapped to x, by will be mapped to y, and they will be invoked. So if I try to execute this, you can see it gives me hello by and function by. Very good. Is this right now an anonymous function? No, it has a name by. Now, in this whole scenario, from here to here, you guys tell me what are callback functions? Which functions are callback functions in this case? Is it add? Is it greet? Is it by? If it is two, tell me those two. Which two functions are callback functions? Quickly tell me that. And in the meantime, I have a call. I will be back. So there are two callback functions as of now. Number one is greet, number two is buy. Add is not. Which makes if there is any function that receives callback functions as an argument, the function that receives callback function as an argument is called higher order function. So in this case, which function is a higher order function? Especially this question is to Adil Rathar. In this case, remember higher order function is that function that receives another function as an argument. So which function becomes higher order function? That's add. So add becomes higher order function because it receives another function as an argument. This is one of the definitions of higher order functions. Higher order functions. Remember that. Can we use callback functions in nested functions? There is one concept that we call as callback hell. It will be discussed later on, Manmohan. Okay. Am I clear? So add is a higher order function, but there's also one another definition of higher order function. Whenever a function, as of now, let's ignore this. Let me try to comment this code. I hope as of now we can clearly conclude our discussion that whenever we talk about higher order functions, a function first definition is a function that receives another function as an argument is a higher order function. In this case, add was a higher order function. This is one of the definitions of higher order functions. Then another case over there, we simply have a function normally. Let's suppose I have a function called as add like this. It simply returns what adfar. Now, guys, if I try to execute this, if I try to call add, what will be the output of this code? Think and answer. Don't blindly answer. Do not answer blindly. Add bracket. What will be the answer of this code? Govind says nothing. Anyone else? Nothing. Anyone else? Nothing. Very good. Very good. Very good, everyone. This is what I am expecting. Need to console. Very good. Very good. Always remember, if you want to see what is being returned, console it. Either store it in a variable, then console it, or directly console it. So let me simply go try to console.log, and then I will simply go call my add. So now if I try to execute it over here, you can clearly see it now prints our adfar. And in a similar way, I can also tell it to return what? Return a number. Very good. If I print it, it prints 1. I can also tell it return true or false, return boolean. Even in this case, it will properly return that. But is there any rule? My function cannot return another function there. Is there any rule? My function cannot return another function. No, there's no rule. There's only one rule, that it has to return a single entity. It has to return a single entity. That answers your question, I guess, Govin. A function in JavaScript can return only one entity. In Python, we can return multiple, but in JavaScript, we can return only one. So no one can stop me by making sure that my function will return another function. Because even though if it returns one function at that point of time, it's only and only returning one thing. Only returning one thing. Still one entity only. Such type of functions are called higher order functions. So there are two definitions of higher order function. One is whenever our function receives another function as an argument. Another is whenever my function returns another function. So in both cases, both of them are higher order functions. Now, if I want to call this, if I try to execute it, what will be the output? Function. So how can we call this function? How can we execute this? Can anyone tell me in the chat? Think and answer. I want to see hello in the output. So what will be the answer to this? Govind says add bracket. Okay, anyone else? Store in a variable. Okay, even let's store it in a variable. So I will simply go at where I will simply say sum is equals, then in variable sum, what will I write? Dibyandu? Let's suppose I will write add like this. So if I write add like this and then console my sum. So if I console my sum here and then try to execute it, what does it do? What does it do? It gives me function anonymous again. So it's one of the same things. But what will I write now? So what if I call this sum here? What if I call this sum here? And then if I try to execute it, it gives me hello. But also it will give me undefined because it's returning undefined because I'm consoling a function. So I can call sum here like this, but I don't want to call it like this. Can I call it like this and then simply put sum here, console.log sum? Or even I don't have to console it here because it's already consoling, so it can directly give me hello. So that's why it gives me hello undefined. So I have to call it twice. I have to call it twice. But tell me one thing here. Why is there undefined in the console? Why is there undefined in the console? Think and answer. Always think. Take your time. There's no rush, never a rush. Think and answer. Second function returns undefined. For the inner function, we are not consoling it. You told by default returns, and very good. That is the answer. If you look at this function, this anonymous function here, it is consoling hello. It's not returning anything. See, when you call add with the first bracket, it's going to execute the first add function. Then since there's another function it returns, I am putting another bracket. Then I am consoling it. So what is this function actually returning? Undefined. Since I am consoling sum, it's also going to console undefined because I'm asking it to console what is being returned. Since I'm asking it to console what's being returned, that's why it's giving me undefined. I can simply say, I can simply call my sum. Even I can simply, since it's consoling it directly, I don't have to store it in a variable as well. There's no need of storing it in a variable. I can call my add like this, and it prints hello over there. Properly works. Now, this type of function is called higher order function. Even in this case as well, this function, internal function, can return another function. There's no one stopping you to do that. If you have any time, you have what is this called, requirement of creating such kind of thing, you can do it like this as well. So in this case, if I put another bracket here and then if I try to call it here, you can clearly see it gives me hello as well. And do you know what this concept is also called? This is called function currying. Function currying, but we will discuss function currying later on. That's an advanced, little bit advanced topic, and that has to serve a lot of other things. We'll discuss that later on. But it's also called function currying because you are creating a curry of a function. वो होता है ना, वो dish curry banana. On that type, we have another topic, another concept inside our JavaScript called as function currying. But at this point of time, ignore function currying. Just to understand, we have not discussed function currying. We don't know what function currying is, but this is a higher order function because it's returning another function. So there are two definitions of higher order function. One is if a function returns another function and that returns another function, so on and so forth, it can keep going. Another definition is that if the function receives another argument function as an argument. Okay, Ankit says undefined. Let's understand one thing here. When you call this add with a one bracket, it means execute this particular whole function. Then you put another bracket, it means execute this function, internal function from here to here. When you put another function, it means execute this whole function now. And that's why if I try to execute it, you can clearly see hello in the output. But Ankit, if I simply console the same thing, when we console our function call, when we console our function call, at that point of time, what do we actually mean? Whenever you console any function call, it simply means please console what this function is returning. Yes or no, Ankit? It simply means please actually console what this function is returning. And what is this function returning? It returns undefined. That's why it actually gives me, first of all, hello, then undefined. Am I clear? But on the other case, if I simply now tell it return what? Return what? Variable verse. Please make sure that you subscribe this channel. Please make sure that you like the video right now and later on put proper comments as well. Okay. And let me try to execute it now. You can see it prints hello and variable verse. Why variable verse? Because I'm printing the console over there. That's what it means. I hope this is understood. Right? Perfect. So with this, we are going to conclude our functions discussion. In our next week, we are going to discuss arrays. And for arrays, functions were important. That's why I discussed functions first, then arrays. Because there are a lot of properties, lot of methods we use actually on arrays. Those are functions. And we pass callback functions here. We pass functions, anonymous functions, fat arrow functions, callback functions, higher order functions, right? Something like that. And that's why I discussed this kind of topic first. But remember, can we all agree to one point here, whoever watched both of these sessions, that these two sessions were most important sessions in JavaScript? Can we all agree to that point at least? Right? Right? Yes, we can. Right? We can. Because we had wonderful discussions these 2 days. And even I would say in our next week, when we talk about arrays, though those two sessions are also going to be very important. We will also take 2 sessions at least on arrays. So those 2 sessions will also be very important, very much important, because arrays meaning lot of data. And when we talk about our web application, there is a lot of data that is involved. Array of objects, array of items, array of this. What are the different parameters methods that we will do? And I will try my best to teach you every single method. Now, see, let me be honest, because I think all of these serious students are here. So let me do this discussion with all of you. We can complete JavaScript in next 5 classes, not more than that. But that will be a quick overview of JavaScript. I don't want to do that. Even if I teach you only JavaScript, I will teach you JavaScript in a way so that you can be best JavaScript developers. Which means we have to spend good amount of time on JavaScript. And JavaScript is only that language where we will give even extra classes as well, even if we have to do that. Because JavaScript is not like I will discuss what arrays are, then we are done. No. Arrays have the real implementations, real applications inside our web development. So we will discuss most of the methods that I have used in my personal experience as well. So do not think that we are giving too much time on JavaScript, because it's necessary for all of you. And you will not find such kind of depth in anywhere related to JavaScript. And that's what my plan is, to give and to keep the best content on internet related to JavaScript and related to MERN actually. So even if it takes extra time, let it take extra time, but make sure you take notes on the same time, you practice on the same time, you work very hard, and that's the only thing that I need from your side. I have never asked for anything else, right? Yes, I might have asked for comments and share, but I think that's very necessary as well, because this channel needs subscribers, right? So please make sure that if you have not liked this video, please like it, and then please share it with your friends and subscribe. Suryansh, I am trying my best to accommodate find time related to doubt sessions. Trust me. But unfortunately, there are a lot of other things that I'm doing right now. Even there's one intern that I might have hired related to doubt sessions, but I'm not able to, find the tone to set up that. So I'm trying to manage all of the things. That's why sometimes there is not doubt session. And this Wednesday, I will try my best to give you doubt session. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Adil. Means a lot. If you feel in that way, it means very much lot. And also, I read a comment a few days back, sir, this channel deserves millions of subscribers. But unfortunately, I'm getting every day 0 subscribers. Every day, 0 subscribers. And that's truth. I have seen subscribers, 10, 15 subscribers only on those days when I have class. Other than that, every single day there are 0 subscribers. So help me in that, because that's the only thing that I can ask you in return, right? So this is the addends link. Please make sure you submit the addends properly, okay? Right? So I'm trying to, sorry. This is another link. I have given another link. This is free batch enrollment. Do not fill this. Do not fill this. So let me share addends form link. Okay. So please, I request all of you, once this class ends, put a valid comment. And yesterday I saw wonderful comments from few people. Those comments honestly inspire me, motivate me, and those are the comments that allows me to continuously continue with these batches, with these sessions. Is it possible to take class on Friday or any other? We will try our best to do that, Shivani. My intention is to give you classes on Friday, and let's see what we can do. Any other weekday, what is the time that we can actually set our classes? Not in evening, I have another classes, but let's see what we can do. Okay, let's see, but that is the plan. Okay, we will do that late, because we have not understood DOM yet, Adarsh. In order to implement it in website, we have to discuss one another very important topic, one other completely topic, and we cannot do that. Basu, unfortunately, that's not possible, because 9 to 11 I have another class, 8 to 10 I have another class sometimes, so that's not possible. We will Adarsh implement it on websites. All these functions, variables, all these operators, we will implement them on website. That's a promise from my side. But right now, we don't have enough tools to implement that. Right now, we are learning. Then we are going to implement it. Okay. Do we have any other questions, guys? Please make sure all of the students, I request all of you to put a valid comment, share this playlist with freshers in colleges, because you will have a lot of network, and help me achieve that, right? There are, Nasir, there are. Don't worry about it. Once we start DOM, after arrays, then I will discuss objects, then we will discuss DOM. All function types are function statement, number one. Second is first order functions or function expressions. That is second thing. Third thing over there is fat arrow functions. Fourth thing is anonymous functions. Fifth is callback functions. Sixth is higher order functions. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Please, please, and please put valuable comment after the session, and also make sure that you share this video with your friends and other college mates. Thank you, guys. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend and weekday as well. And see you in the next class, hopefully on Wednesday with a doubt session. If not, then on next Friday or Saturday. Thank you so much, guys. Bye, everyone. Bye. All the best. Bye. I will keep the session open for 1 or 2 minutes because you might need admin's link. So please do that. Thank you so much, mom. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Bye.